Anren had foreseen that a super earthquake was about to happen. He hurriedly rented a plane with a watch and called his ex-wife to tell her that the whole of California was going to sink. But his ex-wife didn't believe him. Just as he hung up the phone, the whole room shook violently, and a few people hurriedly hid under the table. At this time, Wei arrived in time. He broke into the room, shaking and falling, and shouted to let his wife leave here quickly. At this time, the whole earth was shaking violently, but the girl still wanted to get her hat back. The wooden house collapsed in an instant. Mom pulled the girl with one hand. Wei left in a hurry. Countless cracks appeared between the floor and the bed. The house collapsed in succession. The whole earth cracked like a paper pot. Just when they were trying to escape, the two ants were leisurely driving in front of them. Still worried about the eggs on the car, Wei turned left and rushed over the grass. A stone suddenly rose from the ground. The two ants immediately took off their suits. Wei drove home version and went straight on the road. In less than a second, he was hit by a car. He hurriedly opened and brushed. At this moment, they must rush to the airport as soon as possible. There is a plane rented by Wei. At this time, the whole city has been in a mess. Suddenly, there was a huge crack in front of them. Wei hurriedly turned right. He successfully blocked the crack on his side. Next, let's take a look at what the main light is. Finally, they escaped in this 10.9 earthquake. When they arrived at the airport, they found that the pilot had been captured. Fortunately, Garden learned the airport aircraft schedule too. He can only live temporarily. At this time, the whole ground of California is in a mess. It seems to spread to the airport. Wei controlled it with one hand. The plane quickly began to move forward. When the speed reached 80 miles per hour, Garden hurriedly removed the fuselage. And at this time, the whole earth was in a mess. They all fell down. They quickly crossed the city sky. It's a human chain down there. Suddenly, a subway flew in the air. They successfully escaped. But two buildings blocked their distance again. They flew back again. The whole California is slowly sinking into the big sunset. They took a plane to Wangshi Park. But they didn't find the Wanderer here. So Wei drove a car up the mountain to look for it. Finally, he found the Wanderer on the hill. He was in a hurry to ask where the Wanderer was in California. At this time, a large group of birds flew away. The next second, the whole earth began to shake. Wei quickly left with his daughter. In an instant, the whole body had risen thousands of meters. With a flash of bright light, the 650,000-year-old supervolcano finally erupted. The explosion raised thousands of meters of mushroom clouds. The energy released was equivalent to the power of 11 atomic bombs. The Wanderer was ecstatic. The next second, he was hit by a fireball. Countless fireballs fell from the sky. At this time, Wei was driving away quickly. With the excellent snakeskin, he was eventually hit by a stone, and he was found by his wife not far away. Garden quickly started the plane. At this time, the big earth blocking his way. Wei stepped on the throttle and flew out. As long as the throttle is big enough, any car can fly. The car stopped 10 meters away from the plane. His wife quickly left with his daughter, and Wei went back to the car to look for the Wanderer. At this time, he was found on the ground. Wei was out of breath. Below is the 5,000-degree lava, and Garden couldn't wait any longer. He quickly started the plane. At this time, Wei came back to life. He accelerated and ran at a speed of 340 meters per second to the plane. Finally, at the last moment, he successfully caught up with the plane. Garden, with his excellent driving skills, was successfully out of the circle under the double attack of fireballs and waves. When Wei opened the map and looked at it, he found a huge Chinese map. But to fly to China, they need to change a bigger plane. So they parked the plane in Las Vegas. But at this time, the entire airport was covered by volcanic ash. The plane could not take off. At the same time, Air Force One was also preparing to evacuate. But at this time, the president decided to stay and die with the people. He told the people through TV about the disaster that was about to happen. But he hid the Fangju plan. On the other hand, Wei met his rich leader at the airport.